Welcome back to Metaphor ReFantazio. Last time, we reached the end of the demo. Except for this mini-boss. Although, I will say, the demo actually ends either when you reach this point, or after you... I'm just gonna go use a bit of Seeker healing here. Or after 3 days of free time pass, whichever comes first. So, you can't actually do, like, everything that I've done in these videos in the exact order, but everything that I have done, I'm pretty sure you can fit into the 3 days. You just won't be able to do all of it. But, I mean, if you have the full game, that's not a problem. So, I've topped myself up. In this next fight, there are going to be a lot of the same undead, so Mahama or Meteoric Fist are going to be useful here. And I may as well go for the Mahama setup because, yeah, I'm almost at rank 10 on a healer. Although, wait, okay, I have some hero incenses. Because actually, the main boss here resists all magic, so going for Brawler might be better. So I could get healer up to rank 10 that way. So let's go back to Brawler. So I've got double Brawler and 1 healer. How's Hulk? Her MP is looking kind of fine. Will's MP is not great, but I think I'm going to be pivoting to Brawler for a lot of this. All right. Perhaps in the next part. So here is a member of the White Clads, and essentially the demo's final boss.
As I thought.
Yeah. In the army of the SMT Chaos person, yeah, they don't really care about the lives of the lower-ranked soldiers, which is kind of ironic given their whole faction is built on, you know, everyone is equal, but no, actually... That's the, well, okay, I have way more time to talk about this, like, you know, later on in this playthrough, obviously, but that is one thing that always did just kind of frustrate me about a lot of the lore chaos discourse in SMT, because chaos is extremely hierarchical. It's just replacing rich and poor with strong and weak. But the Louisian Mage Captain is mostly focused on debuffing you and buffing his allies. He is weak to pierce damage, though. But all of his troops are... we already know their weaknesses. They're the same enemies we've been facing all this time. So, let's go for Meteoric Fist. This is kind of luck-based, unfortunately, and it can miss some of them and trigger press turn loss, but we'll see. It's funny how, like, almost superhero-like that animation looks. Okay, a few of them are probably gonna go down to another Meteoric Fist. Let's do this. Okay, how many of them are down? Okay, there's 2 of them left. And the Sword Captain Malmortar is almost down in its own right, but I think I actually have to use Hulkenberg to heal here. Because with even a regular Brawler, in fact, even a normal attack might be able to finish off that one, but I don't think I'm going to take my chances. Yeah, let's just go for a Perfect Punch. Yeah, that was overkill, but I really didn't want that to go down. Yeah, you don't want it to be using Mage Group Strength while all the skeletons are up. And this is the problem with having a healer here, because this thing does have the weakness of healers, but... it's weird that healer learns light dodge, not dark dodge. But I suppose, you know, they wouldn't want you to have dark dodge, because it's kind of, might be a little, I guess, overpowered having a weakness covering skill this early in the game. But okay, when we're down to just you... I was about to say we should be good, but this guy might start to be used... oh yeah, he is using elemental attacks now that he's down to the last one left. I don't know why he decided to use Mage Holiness there. He's like, aha! They have a dark weakness. Clearly they must have a healer among their ranks. I know! I'll use the light attack! Yeah, here's another problem with Brawlers. They actually do suffer a lot once they are down to low amounts of HP. They kind of lose their main methods of attack, and their existing methods of attack start to suck. But it doesn't consume MP, and sometimes that's all you need. Actually, okay, no, I will do this. One punch.
To the rear guard.
Take you to the rear guard. Pass my turn so I can use another heal with Hulkenberg.
Helpful as ever.
We'll be able to finish this next turn, so just don't... Oh, that's a... Oh, okay, interesting. Interesting that kind of defies the usual rules of hard mode giving enemies an extra press turn, because I guess that'd be too overpowered if it... Right, that attack is 1 to 3 times. If that only hits once, that's not worth the cost of synthesis. You generally want to use that against groups, or if it's hitting a weakness. Good to know.
For some close combat. Let's go.
Because if that's a... I could be in trouble here if that's the AoE Dark attack. Perfect punch. Oh, okay, or I could get a clutch crit and finish him. Nice one, Will. Strength build paying dividends. We get another Silver Lance as well. Okay, good. Brawl rank up. And more crit if we have more brawlers in the party, which I do thanks to Stroll. And he's just gone. That punch just yeeted him out of existence.
The thing is,
There's a Louisian Mage Captain-shaped hole in the ceiling. That's at least my headcanon right now. But yeah, after that save point there, we have another save point here, but this one's an actually warpable save point, so it makes sense. And in fact, having access to Akademeia right now is not bad, because you might want some Seekers for what's coming up. But let's just get the ally conversation for now.
no. Then
So, essentially, just the fact this place is already just such a place of fear and confusion is just giving him the power he needs to control an army of corpses. Alright, I had exactly 10 hours of playtime when I reached the point the demo was over. I think the demo is often estimated to take 10 hours. That worked out pretty neatly. Yeah, I do wonder if I should get Seeker on Stroll. It's pretty cheap.
Ah, right. Well.
Okay, and we can turn this in at the same time.
Incredible.
It's gonna feel a little awkward going into this Bond bio in the middle of a dungeon. But we've had an Archetype bio in the middle of a dungeon. I suppose this is par for the course. We get some more imagination as well from Moore's requests. And even though this is a quest-based Bond, you still have responses for more mag. So in this one, any answer matters.
What kind of...
Okay.
However...
It is interesting because you'd think that Moore's memories are very plot relevant, but despite that, this... I almost call it a confidant, I almost call it a social link, you know, this Bond link is optional. And apparently Moore is a ghost, because he remembers his real self being killed after he was shut in here. Like, that is true, right? Yeah, here we go. I was locked in this chamber, shut away in secret, and most outrageously killed. But now he says, I believed I would die here. It seems like Moore's memories are telling him contradictory information.
In truth... However...
Yeah, here, either of these two...
Yeah.
Is the best answer.
I see. I look forward to continuing our research.
And so, this rank is a little sad for reasons that I'm going to explain right now. Moore's Bond ranks up entirely from completing quests. They can be turned in whenever you have access to Akademeia, and they don't use up time. However, each one has increasingly complicated requirements. Some of them require archetypes that aren't available until later in the game. a few of them being tied to optional bonds at that, like Merchant and General. General is also a second tier archetype, meaning you need to advance a different bond to rank 3 just to progress Moors. As for rank 8, Elite refers to third tier archetypes, available at the later ranks of most bonds, including story-locked ones, so you'll always have access to at least one. The ones that require studying 15 and 25 different archetypes count the party's collective progress. You don't have to get 25 on one character. At rank 2 of Moor's Bond, you get access to the archetype tree and skill inheritance at any time from the main menu. And this is kinda sad because it means you have very little reason to actually go to Akademeia beyond ranking up Moor. He kind of invalidates his own services. At rank 3, you unlock the second tier Seeker archetype, the Magic Seeker. At rank 4, you can see a preview of all the abilities for a follower in the follower menu. Moore, are you trying to put me out of a job? All joking aside, this is nice so you don't have to have a guide open in the middle of gameplay. At rank 7, you'll get the third tier Seeker, the Soul Hacker, and also fully unlock its inheritance slots and reduce study cost at rank 6. And at Moor's max rank, you don't unlock anything more for Seeker. Instead, the stat bonuses that anybody gets by equipping any archetype are raised by 3 in everything. And I sure won't say no to anything that makes us universally stronger.
How delightful.
Yeah, we don't actually need to come here anymore. We can just get archetypes anywhere we want. And in fact, at this point, yeah, even... I think you can even do skill inheritance there, which means there's basically no reason to even come to Akademeia anymore except to turn in those requests.
Well then.
Well, we definitely can't do that yet, because we don't unlock the Gunner until after this arc is over. And I'm looking forward to it, because not only is Gunner one of my favorite archetypes, it's also tied to a bond that is one of my favorite characters. Possibly my actual favorite character in Metaphor, which might surprise a lot of people, but I did not expect to like this character as much as I did.
Hello.
So the actual reason why I came here was to give Stroll... Okay, it does start with Wind, so let's actually give Stroll Seeker.
I see. Fascinating.
Because of everyone, he's probably used the least MP so far. And it's going to be cheaper than Mage Wind to use.
Yeah. A new ability.
Alright, I did say that I wanted to get Ironclad Bond. While I'm here though, Hulkenberg needs Mage. I say while I'm here, knowing that this might be the last time I actually like to study archetypes in Akademeia, because now I can do it whenever.
I see.
Oh.
And more Heroes Fruit.
Greater heights.
Let's resume exploring. We're like, maybe 45% into this dungeon? Yeah, there's still quite a lot to go. And so from here, I'm gonna keep you in Brawler, I will have you in Seeker, and... What's my synthesis looking like with this? Energy Ray... Rider of the Bleed. Oh, okay, that's Strike Element, and it's fairly cheap. And you have access to everything... I can't believe that I didn't reference Gerson when I was talking about that bio. Maybe it's a good thing, because a lot of people are maybe tired of that at this point. Oh, okay, the Hundos are back.
They look pretty weak.
That's... Well, I'll take this opportunity to not make money. Let's give capitalism a rest. Let's instead use Mage to give myself some MP. Because, yeah, even though it's only 1 MP per field kill, with the sheer number of enemies here, that's making me a lot of extra MP. So those Hundos might as well have been like an MP battery. Reminds me of how in, like, I've never played those games, but in, like, Warhammer, wow, this is a huge bloodbath, but in Warhammer 40k Space Marine, there aren't any health pickups. The way that you heal yourself is by, like, slaughtering Gretchen, which are, like, the lowest,
Yes.
like, the absolute lowest form of, like, 40k orcs. So, look at with Facesight very carefully when you're in rooms with these things. Because while these statues might be clear, those ones have a conspicuous white aura around them. These are the things we were warned about by the informant. Hello, yeah, I was using the wrong button there. Yeah, they are very physically resilient, and they are immune to slash. But they are weak to wind.
Looks like Slash.
Here we go, Life Roar to Gargoyles.
Nice hit. That was perfect.
Okay, I mean, that was a crit, but yeah, recovered from stun. What I actually want to do is use Psych on them. Yeah, Stroll has a lot of surplus MP. So if I switch, like, past my turns back over to Stroll again, they should be gone. There we go. Some people like to use Seeker in the Baleka Corridor because it effectively is like a magic-ish archetype without using a staff or a mace, so it doesn't trigger the goblins going berserk. Oh yeah, always check Facesight before you enter one of these doors that has gargoyles around it, because you never know when, you know, there'll be gargoyles. But let's keep going.
Hey, maybe there's something to do here.
There's something to do here. Well, yeah, like I said, check the doors for gargoyles, because this one definitely has one. Oh, nice crit there. So the noises they make when you hit them make it sound like they resist strike, but they don't. They're only immune to slash. I do like they give you a slash immune enemy at this point, so it's like the one enemy that's not going to die to Peerless Stonecleaver. Which I surprisingly haven't been relying on that much. What's in here? Okay, weaky enemies. Let's swap back over to Mage.
Right there.
And get myself some extra MP. So yeah, I've come into this floor with more MP than I already have more MP than I came into the floor with. Oh right, I should probably use these hero... Oh, hero fruit are a lot stronger than hero incenses. Okay, I probably do want a high level of brawler on will, so let's use a fruit there. Oh yeah, no, Skullcrack is a very nice skill to have at this point, because it doesn't scale with your HP. Even though it costs a lot, you don't have to worry about being on low health impacting your damage dramatically. One more hero's fruit. In fact, let's actually put that into Hulkenberg's Mage. And let's get Stroll over to Skullcracker. And put the rest into Hulkenberg's Knight. Okay, let's move. And I really should get moving because this area is quite big. Okay, Luisian Spear Soldier. Are these field killable? I guess we're about to find out. Don't stab me, please. They are field killable. Good to know. Which obviously means that we could be exploiting them for extra MP, but oh, they dropped an Igniter too. Speaking of which, somebody should probably take that just so I have an extra, here we go, Breeze Igniter. Just so I have an extra fallback against the Gargoyles. But if we see more... Hi there, yeah, I could kind of tell that was one of them, because it looked a little bit like, darker colored than the others in the vicinity. Right. Yeah, I have, like unchecked paranoia of the Gargoyles' like, AoE attacks, because there's a more powerful version that appears in a later region of the game, let's just say, that really does stick in my memory, because I don't want to spoil exactly what it's for, but, trust me. Also, Nailed Blackboard. That, I believe, is an item that inflicts rage status. You literally scratch a chalkboard to inflict rage. Accurate out of 10. So over here is the elevator to the next floor. But it has a weird magic barrier over it. And yeah, if it's a Magla barrier, don't touch it because it's made of pure anxiety.
Look.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is kind of true, though, by putting that wall there. They've pretty much admitted that this elevator works.
I see.
So, we should track down a Magla Crystal, which means we have a mini-boss to fight. and dispel that barrier so we can actually finally stop taking the stairs. Of course, we'll need to be on our guard because this area is the most dangerous we've encountered so far. And there is actually, like, more we could have done at the start of this place. Okay, I want to take this other path first.
Everything's pretty
As
standard.
always, check the gargoyles. Let's move through here. I want to take this path first because it was locked from the other side. Okay, no, let's definitely take this these stairs. So now probably seems like a good time to actually talk about, like, gargoyles, but I do want to talk about skeletons. Because they're the thing that we've been fighting a lot so far, and I promised that I would give my discussion of them here. Also, that guy bled out of his mouth and got impaled by a spear.
Let's hurry.
Got a sec?
There are quite a few different ways we can go from here, but... hello there, Louisian spear soldier! Oh right, Brawler has really short range. Well, really short range! Once I finally did hit, it was a one-shot, so that's good. So, it does feel weird, like, talking about them in an area where there aren't really a lot of them, but I've wanted to do this because, like, it really does contrast with these zombies from last part's Fantasy Creature of the Day talk. Oh, we also have some, red armored Louisian soldiers. They're pretty weak, though. They're weak to pierce, so Hulkenberg having Knight here is gonna be pretty cool. I can show off Skullcracker, too. Yeah, that's pretty strong for this point in the game. And I should be able to just blitz you down with normal attacks at this point. Oh, wow, that was... yeah, definitely blitz you down with normal attacks.
What a finale! Keep your energy up, everyone!
So, when I was doing my research, I was surprised to find out that skeletons in, like, fantasy culture are a more recent creation, at least in the West, than I thought. They seem to originate in the Middle Ages in around the 1400s. When it comes to, you know what, now that I know that I can fight all these things in the field, I'm gonna go to Mage for some MP recovery. But they seem to mostly originate from dance macabre pictures, like artwork in the medieval period. Okay, hi there, gargoyles.
Say we're evenly matched.
Right there.
Forward.
In those, they were a portrayal of death, or a memento mori, as you would know if you played a certain other Atlas game by the makers of this one. Yes, we did indeed get you.
Ooh, not too shabby.
They're not quite as amenable as the Moradanians in Xenoblade 2, but they've got some kind of memorable dialogue. And that's what I feel the actual horror of skeletons is. Unlike zombies, where it's a more personal horror, skeletons are more of a reminder of the inevitability of death. They're just a general symbol of death, as opposed to, like, actually potentially being, like, representing the death of a loved one or forcing you to relive the death of a loved one. They're more forcing you to relive the idea that everyone dies one day, which to some people is still a disturbing thought, but it's a very different kind of horror, I feel. I say that as we're fighting, like, zombies now. Because, like, that's the thing, like, if you've experienced any kind of media with skeletons and zombies in it, you might have noticed that you very rarely see characters recognizing their loved ones or having to fight their loved ones as skeletons. Skeletons are almost always very impersonal. They're just entirely just generic piles of bones.
Come and get me.
If you do see that kind of plot line, it will almost always be done with a zombie and not a skeleton, and I find that very fascinating. Now, the other thing that I find fascinating is that in most media, in fact, you'll see it right here, see how these zombies? These are civilian zombies. They're either noblemen or commoners. There's a few zombie Louisian soldiers, but they're rarer. Whereas, in almost every instance of skeletons being fantasy enemies that I've ever seen,
Yep, we're safe here.
the skeletons have been soldiers. they always wield, like, actual military-grade weapons and armor.
They all seem pretty weak.
And this is, like, I'm not really sure why, because to me, I almost never see skeletons used as military or anti-war satire. Usually fantasy that does that uses orcs for that purpose, and I think I know why. Orcs, at least in a lot of settings, they do have some semblance of agency in following a conquering tyrannical warlord. Like, that's why I feel like they're often used as symbols of war and conquest. Alright, we established that Will is the one who goes in with the warrior archetype against the elementals. Skeletons, meanwhile, are just puppets. They have absolutely zero will of their own, even though they're used as soldiers, often by conquering warlords.
Their weakness.
As I've said, they're more akin to fantasy robots than they are to, like, soldiers on a battlefield, even if that's, like, often the way that they're used.
And that's that. Victory's ours.
So I'm honestly not really sure why, but it's a very common trend that I see in a lot of media. For example, compare and contrast the Warhammer models for skeletons to their models for zombies. The zombies have very civilian-coded equipment. They're using, like, scythes, pitchforks, and other improvised weapons. The skeletons, meanwhile, they are always using real armor and weapons. And it's often made clear that they were soldiers in their past life. Oh right, we're using Seeker on him in case of that stuff. Now that I just unlocked Ironclad Bonds, no, Guardlaw is kind of nice. Hang on, Hulkenberg does have the auto rucker. Wait, who has the Sentinel? You auto... Okay, this is where the auto-equipping system can get a little annoying sometimes. Because I get that it kind of takes a lot of the hassle off of swapping your equipment every time you switch to a new archetype. But also, I really want the auto-Rakukaja on Hulkenberg at pretty much all times. In fact, it might have actually been my fault. I might have done that when I was switching items around on people, like with Hulkenberg, but anyway.
Amazing.
So yeah, I'm not sure why it is that skeletons are nearly always soldiers, as opposed to zombies who are more likely to be civilians. But I think it does add to the sort of the tragic element of fighting zombies, because like you can potentially fight anybody as a zombie. Skeletons, like, again, I do feel like it's that whole Memento Mori thing, the idea of remembering your death. It's their appearance that has the horror, not like who they were in their past life. But I almost feel like more media should actually use skeletons as, like, anti-war satire, because, like, the idea of these mindless soldiers who are just being forced to fight for their masters even in death and forced to continue being soldiers, but also they have like absolutely zero agency. Like a skeleton can never refuse orders. A skeleton is just a puppet. They have absolutely zero free will. This statue right here, that's the main gimmick of this floor. A gimmick that you won't be able to interact with unless you found the optional content on the earlier floors. I had a feeling we'd be seeing one of those at some point, and I think let's go off of Mage and back to Brawler on you. You do still get archetype experience for fighting enemies in the field, so all of these enemies that I am draining MP from as a Mage, they are still giving Mage archetype experience, even though I don't really see myself using it on Will into endgame. Ah, they are resistant to magic. Okay, that's actually problematic because he dodged that. Nice, okay. That would have been a weakness if that had hit him. Downside of using Seeker here, these guys are actually using some pretty decent tactics, backing up their gargoyles by having the weakness of the thing that hits the gargoyle's weakness. However, I could just, ruin their plans by inheriting wind on something else, which, honestly, at this point, I should probably do. Next time I get to a save point, I'll do that. And just put Stroll in Brawler or Warrior, even though Seeker will result in a little bit more magic. Aha! I had a feeling that you were going to be one of them. By one of them, I mean one of the ones that's an actual enemy and not just a statue. Rare use of normal attack with Seeker from me in this playthrough.
The way's clear.
Another thing about skeletons that I have often, like, noticed is that skeletons are just the easy, safe enemy to fight in, like, any fantasy context. Like, they're a type of thing you can, particularly in Dungeons and Dragons, when you're a dungeon master and you want, like, literally peace to not be an option, throw skeletons at the players. Because they are a fantasy monster where they're, like, not only is there almost never any hope of negotiation, other than, like, actually somehow using your own magic to control them yourself, but they are pretty much the one fantasy monster that you know that nobody will ever feel bad for actually fighting. It reminds me a little bit of the monsters in Final Fantasy X, in the fact that, like, normally a lot of RPGs, you can end up feeling guilty for, like, killing even monsters because, you know, they're just animals, they're just acting on their instincts. But in Final Fantasy X, those monsters are, in fact, made up of a bunch of souls of the dead, and killing them is a way to get the dead to move on. And in a way, that's what you're doing with skeletons. Like, you're doing like the world a service by getting rid of them for multiple reasons, and you don't need to worry about harming sentient beings because they're all dead. Like,
There they are.
like, almost never, like, unlike, again, zombies don't have that. With zombies, they might be your loved ones, there might be some tragedy there, but, like, with skeletons, you will never feel bad for killing skeletons, or just fighting skeletons in general. So, that, I feel, is it's actually a decent use for skeletons in the fantasy, in fantasy settings, because, again, if sometimes you just want some guilt-free combat in a setting like this, and skeletons are a good source of it. Because, yeah, they are, I know that I feel like I'm repeating myself way too much, but they are basically fantasy. Well, I mean, a lot of sci-fi treats robots as, like, actually sapient, but, like, in a fantasy setting, skeletons are pretty much just non-sapient robots. Like, they're bone robots. It's kind of like why I do feel like it's kind of cool conceptually, the, Ossiarch Bone Reapers faction for, Warhammer Age of Sigmar is kind of an interesting take on the idea of an army of skeletons. While not, like, because, you know, you would think they would be ripping off the Necrons with that, but there's very little Necron lore in them. Oh, that one's also shut from the other side. And I think I remember how we get to that one, and it's kind of interesting. But, like, the Ossiarch Bone Reapers are essentially bone golems. They're built from the bones of multiple different people, and they make sure they choose the bones of not just, like, anybody, but also just skilled warriors. Again, with the whole thing of skeletons always being warriors. Like, honestly, if people in the comments can figure out what the symbolism is behind that, I'd like to know, because I do wonder why, like, you never see civilian skeletons in media.
Hey.
So, let's see some talk here. Yeah, this time our subject is the Whiteclads. Certainly not the White Wings from Fire Emblem, those ones are totally on your side. They're using this as the one true military. I mean, you know, they have a point about the Sanctus Church being corrupting the government, but that is just the...
Well...
That is like one of the biggest issues with Luis's faction, is the fact they do have legitimate points, but they're also engaging in, like, actual terrorism.
Let's go.
So, I wouldn't exactly call this next fight a mini-boss, it's more like a forced regular enemy fight. Because as we go down there, we're going to be getting closer to that giant magma crystal, and we also have to deal with these insanely annoying enemies called Spectos. They are Metaphor's take on ghosts, another classic. We're basically hitting the full gamut of undead here. Ghosts, skeletons, and zombies. But we're not really going to be seeing a lot of these ones compared to the latter two. But for them, I think I will want some healers. Because they straight up repel physical. But they are weak to fire, so I can actually swap Stroll over to Mage to have their number in that regard. So why Spectres are annoying is because they are nearly impossible to kill off on the field. They teleport everywhere, and they also self-destruct. Now, for the most part, it's not a good idea to just squad them and fight them, but I want to show what they look like anyway, because they are kind of a cool design. Definitely one of the more unique take on ghosts I've seen in fantasy media. But yes, totally buoying everything physical. You basically need light magic to take them out. And they actually have a pretty good amount of bulk to them.
It's up to you now.
So I would much rather let them explode on the field than actually fight them. But I wanted to show what fighting them looks like anyway. Because we're about to do that soon.
Our foes have fallen. We are safe.
So we'll take that. Oh, Bomb of Life, not bad. Yeah, in here we have yet more of these Spectres. Yeah, you really just want them to explode, rather than, because like, I don't even know if stunning them is even possible. I've always seen them explode before the stun could even possibly go off. So like, I feel like
We are safe for the time being.
it is, like, I want to say it's not possible to stun them, but I could be wrong about that. However, we have something here.
What's up?
Why do I sense there's something on your mind? This is what the Sanctified Amulet is for.
What?
By pressing this, we basically have this statue kneel down even further in prayer, and that opens up a path
That's...
to something
If
else.
that's the case.
That being the case,
They are locking this one chest on this floor behind so many things. Let's go ahead and grab this. Yeah, we even have a separate chapel within this dungeon. Like, you know, what is... Like, this is very Persona 5. Gonna go back to... How about I get Warrior to level up? Dodge that! Okay, yeah, here's where you can see that immunities don't apply on the field, because... Or unless that... No, that I think that is actually still dealing fire damage. Oh, there's a Spectre in the fight. I said that, like, normally you don't want to waste your time fighting these, although they are also weak to fire, and I have a fire sword, so I can actually do that, but no, I'm not going to waste 8 MP on that. I will waste 4 MP on this, though. But yeah, hard to avoid fighting them when they are just part of a fight. To give a bit of a sneak preview on the idea of ghosts, Ghost is something that, like, the symbolism of them is almost entirely, like, agreed on by most connoisseurs of fan... I sound so pretentious. And that is they represent regrets and, like, lingering regrets from life. An unfinished business. So yeah, I am gonna go... I think I will go double healer here. 2 healers and 1 mage. Because fire and light are gonna be what we want here. I suddenly had a core memory unlocked of playing Adventure Quest back in the day, where there was a pet that I remember being really good called the Fire Light Vampragon. I think it was exclusive to Guardians. I love the fact that Guardians in that game were a one-time fee and not like a monthly fee like a lot of other MMOs back then were. I mean, Adventure Quest wasn't an MMO, but still. But yeah, this is the Magla Crystal that will dispel the barriers, but it also is guarded by 5 Spectres.
Attack!
Draw your blades. No, draw your magic, because blades are not going to affect these things. So yeah, we have 5 Spectres here, and they are pretty tough, but we have Mahama. And yeah, the game isn't telling us that they're weak to light yet, and that's because these are a different type of enemy, but yeah, that's more than half damage to them. Of course, in a first playthrough, you probably wouldn't know that this fight is coming, and so it's going to be maybe a lot harder, especially if you end up going in here with an all-physical party. But if you have Mahama, this fight is totally trivial. Wow, it's worth a lot of experience and stuff too, so it's very much worth getting an unscathed triumph here.
If I say so myself.
I shall strive to use
Because
this
only
power
Hulkenberg leveled out of that. And nobody got any archetype level ups. Well, I mean, they did, but they didn't get any skills. So nobody got any archetype level ups that the game draws attention to. So it just feels less special that way. Once again, goodbye, Screaming Crystal. And that takes care of the barrier surrounding the lift.
Good.
Yeah. Yes. Understood.
For the rest of the dungeon, we'll be facing a lot more white clads.
Is it really? No matter.
Yeah, you're about to realize the true power of RPG, well, fantasy and general protagonists. Small elite squads are often better than one giant army. But before we go back to the lift, I want to take care of the thing that Sanctus Amulet unlocked. Hello there, mate!
Yeah, nice work.
And with that, we can unlock this door from the other side. Have I gone up here yet? Okay, but there's an item here I haven't got.
You found some.
I always love, whenever a game has ladders, when going down a ladder is so much faster than going up. Because usually if you're going down a ladder, you're backtracking, and when you're backtracking, you always want to be fast. Also, plateau has suddenly shown up here. That is not ominous at all. And now I make use of the reset enemies to get a little bit more MP refills off of Mage. Aha, the Magla barrier is gone here, so we can access a bit of a new area. Blessed Water is always great for purifying items. And that leads us up and around here, which is basically where we've already been. But now, yes, we can jump down, walk across these arms, and unlock this from the other side. Not necessary, but nice to do. This entire dungeon-long side quest was for this. The Exorcist's Cassock increases dark evasion and magic +3. It's almost like they want you to use healer in this dungeon. So yeah, like everything was just for that.
True.
And this loops back around to the save point near the Spectos. I'm gonna go back to Night on Will for what's coming. Oh, actually, hang on. Yeah, we can press triangle to go to the archetype tree here. And with this, I think I'm able to go... yeah, by pressing square for skill inheritance, I can inherit skills here, so let's put Medi on Hulkenberg's Knight. So now I can go Knight Hulkenberg and also have her heal. And by going here again, I can check Stroll's Inheritance, and from here I can also put Blizz onto Brawler if I wanted. Which I think I will actually do, because that will give me access to Hammer of Justice on Knight. So, yeah, basically you want Pierce and Ice in what's coming, because when we call this elevator...
We did it! Huh?
Don't tell me.
It turns out to be occupied.
Sigh.
White Clads are back, but this time we've got 3 of them. The White Clad Triumvirate. It's just a very fancy way of saying 3 people.
Watch out!
So this is one Luisian mage
Piercing
captain
attacks. Hit 'em all in one fell swoop.
who has the same stats as the one we fought before with the undead, but they can buff their allies and use healer's weakness dark. And then we have 2 Luisian sword
They're
captains.
pretty tough.
which we haven't faced before, but they are weak to ice, and that's why I inherited Blizon Stroll.
Be frozen!
This is weird that's going to be coming from a brawler. But okay, so...
Into the fray. Comrades, lend me
Hammer of Justice. This is a little steep on MP, so I'll probably only use it once, and you're already weak to Pierce anyway, but
All right!
I just gotta show it off.
I'll run you through.
Weaver got them right in the
Count
weak
Louise condemns you.
Count Louis condemns us, huh? Well, I know a certain tortoise who'd condemn you.
Two remaining. Prepare yourselves.
Okay, right. So they're going to be coming after me now. At least the mage is gone. Let's just do a little bit more, spread a little bit more damage around. Mage Flam. Stop flamming my party, K. Okay, so yeah, now we've got just the Lucian Sword Captains left. At this point, I can use Medi.
This won't do.
Yeah, I don't really want to use Hammer of Justice again, and I think just going for Synthesis might not be the best idea, so I think I'll just use a straight fight here. But of course, now we're running into the problem where Knight is, not exactly the greatest archetype for just straight up attacking. I've actually seen a lot of people in the comments who've, like, really been, not having good things to say about Knight. I do understand that to an extent. I do feel like in a first-time playthrough, having a Knight with Medi can actually be very helpful. Just to have a tanky healer when you need patching up, but the more of the game you go, like, the more experience you get with the game, the less useful the dedicated tank classes get, I suppose. Okay, so Stroll is currently on fire. And I kind of want to leave him on fire. That sounds so bad. But I want to leave him on fire because we'll get a tutorial on how burn works once we get to his turn. We also have this red... Oh, I can actually do that. Now's a good time for that. But firstly, let me just... Is there anything here... Oh, I do have Ice Chunks. Good. Okay, yeah, let's Ice Chunk you. I am not going to use tutorial on burn. Okay. Because burn actually works very uniquely in this game compared to a lot of other RPGs. It does still deal additional damage to the burning character, but that damage is taken every time they get hit by an enemy, not at the end of their turn, as is common. It's kind of an interesting way to do burn. Basically, the burn compounds the enemy's damage. I suppose let's... No, actually, I promised to cure that. I mean, Stroll is our ride or die, after all. We need to,
This'll do it.
we need to respect that. It is a two-way... Friendship is a two-way street.
Is everyone all right?
As are the lessons of the cartoon horses. That actually reminds me of something now that we've fought him. Oh, right, there's Slicer. I was wanting to go over Slicer at some point, but, I mean, it's getting pretty late in this part to do so. Haven't really been using Warrior as much as I expected to. I do want to save some MP, because, unlike in Persona 5, you take on the boss of a dungeon as part of that dungeon. You don't return to town in between finishing the dungeon and fighting the boss. So, we do still need to keep conserving our resources before the actual boss fight. I'll just use my other Ice Chunk. But yeah, just like a weird aside that I had, because we've met Katharina at this point. So, I personally don't like comparing the Parapus to, like, different actual, like, trying to figure out what actual types of animal the Parapus are each based on, because they're just, you know, they're just themselves. I don't, you know, they're not, like, strictly animal people the way that, like, other, like, JRPGs do that. But because... Oh yeah, I have 2 points to spend here because I gotta level up on the fields, that's why. In my first playthrough, I thought that sometimes you got 2 points from certain level ups. No, it's the level ups you got on the field. Those points are saved until your next battle. You know, I'm just gonna put 1 point into endurance just because. But, like, so, Katarina, though, to be a hypocrite and do the thing that I said that I was going to do, she has very long ears, but her tail is too big and bushy to be a rabbit. So I always saw Katarina as a horse person. I don't know if anyone else also thinks that, but, like, that's what I always had in mind.
Got it.
And on that extremely weird note, the dungeon is not over yet. And this area took longer than I expected, so I'll be back next time for the last leg of the dungeon. See you all then.